You're listening to the A Bit From Within podcast with Felicia Marty. I need to take care of myself. So as much as I want to go zone out, that's not going to actually level me up to a place where any of my needs are met. Sometimes I think when we can't get grounded, we try to take ourselves into a place of power by taking control, and that becomes just fast, jagged movements. Hello there, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today for a new episode of the A Bit From Within podcast. My name is Felicia, for those of you who are new here, and every week I come to you just to share a little bit of what's been going on in my world, whether it's a piece of my heart, something I'm going through, something I've been thinking about, experiencing, and I'm usually here also to just encourage radical self-care, and that looks like a lot of different ways, and I promise you I'm going to really dive into that on this episode. But first, I just want to share how I'm feeling in this moment because I got my coffee. It's Martin Luther King Day. I didn't know that Dave was going to have the day off, so I feel like we got kind of like a bonus weekend day together. I have a full week of being back from vacation under my belt with my business, and I've been feeling the roller coaster lately. But right now in this moment, I started my day off today with a big manifestation ritual, some nice big deep releasing breaths, and I'm feeling really good right now, and I'm so excited to be able to sit down in this place and speak with you from that place, because you guys know, if you've followed for a while, sometimes I can come here and feel like I'm really in it, and I'm in it right now, but in a totally different way. Yesterday was a really tough day. For those of you who are on the Patreon, you know we were supposed to have a live yoga class and connect yesterday, and I had to postpone it because I ended up spending yesterday morning in the emergency room with Dave. Dave is my boyfriend, my partner. We've been together for 5+ years, and he has been really struggling with his health the last 5 months. On his birthday last October, we had a little episode where I invited him on, and he was sharing a lot about how he was feeling. And at that point, we kind of thought he was getting better. And then he ended up having another arrhythmia that happened in the beginning of November that led to all of this stuff with this cardiologist trying to figure out if it was something structurally going on in his heart. We did cardiac MRIs and an angiogram and all of this stuff, and we're being told that there's nothing structurally wrong with his heart. And so he finally ended up teaming up with this team of doctors who are researching long-haul COVID symptoms. And as far as we know, Dave and I have never had COVID. If we did have COVID, it could have been when we were really sick with the flu back at the beginning of August, right before all of this happened. But I really did think that was the flu. I was actually tested for COVID right when I was really sick and tested negative. That was with a PCR test, and we both got it. We were both, he was out for longer than I was. And what he's realizing from some research, and I don't want to speak too much on this topic because you guys, I don't have the knowledge base or like the vocabulary to do it justice, but I'll give you the very Cliff Notes version. That flu that we had might have triggered something to do with the spike proteins from the vaccine inside of his system. And that, because of how possibly the vaccine was injected into his body, he might be dealing with a vaccine injury. That's where we're at. And he started working with this team of doctors who are helping both people with the vaccine injury symptoms who didn't have COVID, or a lot of people who had long-haul COVID symptoms who are dealing with these kind of chronic illness type symptoms that regular doctors are not able to see or help or hear or give answers on. So he had some inflammation markers ran, and it turns out that he has all of the high markers. And essentially, again, long story short, He's got some really bad stuff happening with his immune system, and he has to get his immune system back to a better place. So for the past couple weeks, we've been on a low histamine diet. He's been 100% on it. I've cut out dairy completely from my diet. I've cut back a ton on like grains and gluten and wheat and all of those things. And then also just we're really trying to keep our meals very clean. Low histamine diets are really, really interesting because you have to eat fresh foods. You can't likely eat leftover meats. So we're just making a lot of meat and vegetables right now. That is consuming a lot of our meals. And it's really tricky because with what Dave's going through, he'll have a couple of better days, and then he'll have days where he is just has these flare-ups where his heart rate is really high, where he feels sick, where he's just not doing so good. But it's been manageable, and he hasn't had another arrhythmia since November. But that is a possibility because of some of the damage that has been done in his near his heart. There's some endothelial stuff happening. That's the extent of how I can describe it. But anyway, I know that you're not here for this part of the story, but what I wanted to share was yesterday we ended up in the emergency room because he woke up feeling extremely dizzy, and then he had an arrhythmia in the morning. And so the arrhythmia lasted longer than 30 seconds, which is one of the indicators that his doctors have told me. And then along with his other symptoms of feeling very nauseous, very dizzy, all of those things, it was just the right thing to do. And of course, it was a very stressful morning, and it was really hard because, they were able to run all of the markers that anything life-threatening was happening to him, and it was not. So we ended up getting sent home, 5-6 hours later after they ran the test a couple hours apart just to make sure there were no changes. But it was just really hard. It was hard for Dave. It's really hard when you're dealing with any kind of illness, just to be told by the people who are supposed to be able to help you that they don't know what's going on, that they're not trying to dismiss that you don't feel well, but there's nothing that they can do to help you. And I always know that on a mental level going into it just because of what we've been dealing with. But it just hurts my heart to watch him suffer right now and to go through this. And I swear, as I was driving home yesterday from the hospital, the whole day got crazy, and it's hard to be in a hospital during COVID, and it's just been hard with what we're dealing with. I got in that car on our way home, and I was just like, I am starving right now. I want to go get a breakfast burrito. Like, I want to go get a donut. I am so there's sometimes that need we have to want to feed our feelings with delicious foods, our favorite foods. And I knew that we didn't have any meat in our refrigerator that was unthawed. So I dragged us to the grocery store on the way home. I just left Dave in the car while I ran in real quick. And I was so, there were so many things I was just tempted on. And I was so proud of myself because I stayed focused. And I ended up getting some ingredients for this low histamine sweet potato soup. It had sweet potatoes and cauliflower and ginger and turmeric and that kind of stuff in it. And then just a couple other vegetables and things. And how I felt like I did myself a favor is that I got all stocked up on some frozen vegetables, because sometimes it just helps with the cooking process when we're cooking so much at home. It's like, if I can use frozen sweet potatoes, or if I can use frozen green beans or frozen asparagus, even you can get frozen chopped onions, that can be such a game changer for the kind of workload you're putting out when you're trying to make healthy meals at home. And so that's what I did for myself. And I skipped the donut, and I was I've been off dairy for almost 2 weeks now. And I really was do I say F it, I'm going to have a cheat day? I'm just going to go get I just been really craving like dairy, and I stuck with it. And when I got home, I was honestly feeling really depleted. I was feeling very anxious about where Dave is at with this process. I know that he's going through his own emotions with this, but so am I. I'm going through all kinds of emotions. Obviously, I'm worried about him. I want him to feel better, but I'm also frustrated by the toll this has taken on our household and on our family and on our goals. The amount of energy this is taking away from us being able to have any energy on anything else going on in our lives. And I was just kind of noticing, I was trying to be very aware of what was happening in my mind. So, obviously, the wanting to eat sugar, wanting to eat bad, wanting to self-sabotage a little bit. Also, I was like, it would be so nice just to like zone out and, marathon The Bachelor right now, scroll through TikTok, just zone out. And it led to this moment, this kind of epiphany moment where I really felt like, I need to really think about self-care right now, because self-care as this concept is everywhere right now. And there are people who would tell you, Felicia, you just got home from taking your spouse home from the hospital. Self-care is going through that McDonald's drive-thru and cuddling up on the couch and zoning out for the rest of the day. And I am not saying that somebody else in that same position could have taken those steps and that would have been self-care for them. Maybe it would have. But what I realized in that moment for myself is doing those things would only be me avoiding how I'm feeling, stuffing down the pain, stuffing down the frustration, avoiding it, numbing myself out because I don't want to feel any of it right now. And so instead, I thought I would just make that soup. I was going to make that sweet potato soup, and I was going to do it as an act of love. That act was, I'm not even going to call that part self-care, because what I was doing in that moment was doing this as a gesture of love to Dave. And I do think that one of the ways that we can sometimes take care of ourselves is for caring for others. But we always have to balance that out with how we're doing, right? But I'm going to tell you, I was not Miss, sweet as sugar. I was actually not really speaking with Dave. I wasn't giving him the cold shoulder, but I was in my own energy. And in fact, I kind of had that little shell up. You guys ever get that shell around you when you're kind of in a mood where you're just like, don't come near me, don't fuck with me. I'm in my own space right now. That is the energy that I was putting off, even though that was happening around me, while on the inside I was just kind of working through this thing as I was trying to make this sweet potato soup. And what was so frustrating is that I didn't know until yesterday, after I got home from the store, that all kinds of chicken stocks and meat stocks and bone broth, which fills our pantry, is high in histamines because of the fact that it's slow cooked. So as I was like, okay, I gotta figure out what to do. Do I go back to the store and make some veggie, or buy some veggie stock? Or can I make my own? So I ended up chopping up all of this stuff and making my own veggie stock so that I could later make the sweet potato soup. And that is when I started to feel like I was starting to unlock this piece of self-care for myself in this cooking process. Taking my time to peel the vegetables, taking my time to rinse the vegetables, taking my time to pour 1.5 liters of water into the Instant Pot. And it was in this process, even though, like I said, my kind of energetic shell around myself was a little bit pokey, on the inside I was starting to break through this place where I'm like, okay, this is important for me to be here right now and notice how I'm feeling, because as I was cooking, I was feeling all of these, I was noticing the frustration. I was noticing the fears that were coming up. I was noticing the parts of myself that are just a little scared and a little small. And that was important, but I was also feeling myself kind of feel this very slow feeling of, you know what it was? It was getting grounded. I love that, because sometimes I think when we can't get grounded, we try to take ourselves into a place of power by taking control, and that becomes just fast, jagged movements, right? Like, I'm just going to make this soup. That's what would have happened if we would have had veggie stock and I would have just gone right into making that soup. I would have just been taking control of the situation. I'm making you this low histamine soup. This is how I'm feeling powerful right now. But the fact that I couldn't do that, and I had to slow down and I had to do the veggie stock first, started me to realize I was starting to get grounded. And during that moment of starting to get grounded, I just started to realize I am here. We are dealing with this. I don't have a lot of control over what's happening around me. I don't have control over the answers that we're getting / not getting. But I do have control over how much carrot I'm putting into this veggie stock. I am here right now. I feel my feet beneath me on the ground. And so when I pressed go on the setting on the Instant Pot to make the veggie stock, I thought, okay, great. Now I can go zone out. And then I thought, is that self-care? Like, I am in a place where I need self-care right now. I just had a hard morning. It's a Sunday. I just got back to work. I've made some big decisions with the business this week. My partner's going through this huge thing. I need to be taken care of right now. And I can't rely on my partner to take care of me. I can't ask him to tuck me up in bed or make me some soup right now. Like, he's doing the best he can to take care of himself. So I need to take care of myself. So as much as I want to go zone out, that's not going to actually level me up to a place where any of my needs are met. And I realized, I'm like, what I need to go outside. I was like, I need some space. And Dave hasn't done anything wrong, but I need some space from him. I need some serious space from him, not for a long time. I didn't need space for a long time, but I just put the dog on the leash and we went out and we did the kind of walk where he gets to just smell whatever he wants. So it wasn't a walk for exercise. I wasn't trying to hit all of my, activity goal type things. I wasn't doing it to accomplish something. I was just outside, feeling that gorgeous sun on my face, enjoying the fact that my dog can smell all these smells and he is kind of leading the way. And then I could just breathe outside and my body could regulate. It was a walk for my mental health. And that was genuine self-care. And it wasn't the longest walk I've ever taken. It ended up being about 15 minutes. And I felt a lot better when I got home. And I just really was thinking a lot about this concept of self-care out on this walk, about how so often we confuse self-care with something that just makes us happy, right? We think, okay, self-care will be that McDonald's drive-thru because McDonald's will give me endorphins, will make me happy. Self-care is zoning out watching TV because watching that TV is just gonna, again, endorphins make me happy. Some like online shopping. There's a million things that we can think of that have this guise that can sometimes fall into the same bucket as self-care when it comes to activities. Working out, eating healthy, taking an amazing bath, calling up a friend, taking a dance class, doing a new hobby, getting outside, right? All of these things could be amazing for us. But sometimes it really depends on how we're going into it, what we expect from it, and also being very honest about if it's actually going to take care of us in that moment. So for instance, a lot of us, especially in these last couple weeks of January, maybe you've set some goals around movement, right? Let's just take an example of somebody who's like, I'm going to work out, 8 hours a week. And so I've got to slay myself either in the gym or out on a run or on the treadmill or in classes, whatever. And let's say they have a night where they end up having a huge fight with their partner. They get no sleep. They are under a ton of stress. Maybe they've got some family stuff going on, and they have an hour to themselves before they have to get to work in the morning. And they think, I have to go take care of myself by going to the gym to slay it for an hour, because I have to meet my goal. And there can be a lot of pressure with goal setting, especially in our world, because a lot of people are putting their goals out for other people to see and to prove to other people via social media, which can be an awesome way to keep yourself accountable, for sure. But sometimes I think that element can even lead to us making choices that, once again, are based on what other people measure us on. Other people are going to be judging me for this thing, or I need people to comment on my Instagram, so I'm going to just forget the fact that I'm dirt tired. I'm going to go to the gym this morning. And then they end up dragging through their morning. They're not as alert in their meetings. They're crashing by noon, so they end up eating something that was not good for them. And then they feel like crap the rest of the day. And even though they did that hour of self-care that morning, going to the gym and working out, did it lead you into a place where you were able to take better care of yourself that day? Now, could you take that exact same scenario and turn it into one that is actually filled with self-care? Yeah, you absolutely could. Hey, I just had a fight with my partner. I'm running on little sleep right now, but I do know myself, and I know that 20 minutes on the elliptical, going a little bit slower than normal, but listening to my favorite TED Talk that boosts me up, or my favorite song, or watching this show while I work out, it's just going to get my mind off of it, get me some creativity. It's going to get me to that place where I feel empowered in myself, and then I'm going to make sure that I grab a really nutritious breakfast. That is self-care. I know I'm going to need extra calories this morning to get myself into this next part of the day. Suddenly, that exact same routine becomes self-care. So that is why I think it is so important for us to be so in tune with ourselves, and to be really checking in with ourselves and with our why, and with what ends up helping us. Because, for me, I don't mean to share this story where if it sounds at all like I'm putting myself on this pedestal with what I did yesterday, because I tell you what, just to recap, I was grumpy. I was making the soup. I realized I was feeling more grounded. I started to realize I need to take better care of myself. I went on this walk, started feeling a lot better. I came home, finished the chicken stock. I went upstairs, I changed clothes. I just got myself into something that felt more comfortable, more relaxing, more me, more warm and cozy. I just wanted to really feed myself with textures. And then I actually spent time relaxing and doing the things that just actually do let me zone out, that let me just calm down a little bit. And I was able to stay close with Dave, make sure that he was doing good. I was able to reconnect with him. And it felt really important. And it was really hard because so much of me had throughout that time kept thinking, oh, maybe you should reschedule your yoga class for tonight and you should reconnect with everyone right now. And, or maybe you need to go check your emails. Maybe you should be cleaning the house. Maybe you should be starting laundry. And I was like, you know what? No, today took an unexpected turn. You're doing your best right now just to be in this moment, take care of you, take care of your partner, take care of your dog. So we just relaxed, and I made the food, and I felt like all I did was make some food, clean the kitchen, relax, make some food, clean the kitchen, relax. And I was in that cycle a little bit, but I feel like it's where I needed to be. And I truly believe that just those small moments where I did something to actually take care of myself and my heart, instead of just bypassing to the next thing that would make me feel better, actually let me have a better experience yesterday, even though it wasn't a magical fix. But I tell you what, I woke up today feeling a lot better, feeling energized, feeling open, feeling ready to just be on a higher vibration. And I truly believe that today's reaping, being able to reap that, goes into what I did yesterday. And that keeps going, right? Like, and today, if I am mindful and I take care of myself and I'm really watching and assessing and being honest, then what I plant and do today will lead to tomorrow. Now, can unexpected things come up? Yeah. Can things deplete us faster than we expected? Yes. And that is why we have to pay such close attention, because if you start to run really low, if you've gone too many days in a row where too many people need you and you're not having any fun and you're not having your needs met, your basic needs met, if you are feeling like there are parts of you that are screaming out for attention or to be seen or to be heard or to be made, have a meal made for you, right? Like just to be taken care of, then you are in a deficiency where it's going to be harder to get to that point, right? Like those are the times when radical self-care is needed, right? Like when you either have to write that letter to that person that's contributing to the cycle and you got to break it, where you need to go out and, I don't know, get like some animal therapy, right? Like go out with the horses and like go to the farm and like really get some self-care, or go get a massage, but not just from any body worker, but from somebody who can really meet you where you are and help you to be seen. Those are the times when we need those things more than ever, right? Or when we don't just call up our friend, but we're like, hey, I need to meet up. Like this is an SOS. Like I need to talk. I need to share with somebody how I'm feeling. And that even though those one things, like even if you just did one of those things, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to instantly feel better. But sometimes when you're at a real deficiency, those are the times when just making yourself some soup and taking a bath aren't going to be enough. They're not actually letting you get to a place where something needs to change, because oftentimes when we get that deficient, there's something inside of us. There's a fear that we have that is preventing us from making that change, from setting that boundary, or from getting a need met. There's either an excuse because we're afraid, or we don't want to inconvenience somebody else, or we just don't know how because we're just kind of feeling stuck. And that's when we need encouragement from our friends, or we need inspiration from outside of our routine, right? Like you need to go meet somebody different who's doing it a different way, that unlocks that idea, that's like that epiphany in our own head that can allow us to reset something in our life, or just some space to realize what's really going on. Sometimes we just need that. But I think we can all relate to the fact that like navigating through life, especially right now, at the beginning of 2022, after the last couple years that we've had, we're all in a unique place in the fact that like life is pretty tricky. Life is, it's like we're all just trying to be like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. It's fine. But we all know that like fine is not good. But we're doing the best that we can. So I guess I kind of saved the second part, the heart of what I usually talk about on this podcast. I usually kind of do my intro, then do the astro check-in, but I just kind of skipped the astro check-in and got into all of this. So as we wrap up here, I do want to talk about the full moon that is happening today in Cancer. You guys know that I love talking about the lunar cycles and working with the lunar cycles. And if this is new to you, or, it's something you've heard me say for the past couple of years, and you still have kind of been like giving me side eye on it, I encourage you to either go to the Patreon page where I posted the self-care lunar guide for January, for this full moon, new moon and full moon is this entire cycle, or go to my website and you can download the self-care guide or the lunar guide. They're the same thing. There's just they used to be two different things. I used to do a new moon guide and then do a full moon guide. But starting this year, I thought, you know what? This is going to be such a powerful change to put it all into one self-care guide. It's totally free. It is beautiful, if I do say so myself. And it just talks about what I call like relatable astrology. I'm not an astrologer yet, but I do read a lot about astrology, and I've done a lot of, rudimentary learning. And I love just especially thinking about the elements and the signs that the moon travels throughout the year. And right now, today, there is a full moon in Cancer. And the full moon marks the halfway point of our lunar cycle. A lunar cycle starts on the new moon, and we build up to this middle point where there's a full moon in the sky, and there's so much light, and there's so much energy. And this can be a time of illumination, revelations, but it can also be a time where you're like, okay, I see things clearly now, and now I know what I need to let go of. I know what I'm ready to release. I know what I see what I've been building, and now I need to retreat back into myself so that I can kind of reset and start over again. And this is a slow process, right? Like it takes 2 weeks. So right now, the full moon part of it, we're just looking and seeing and sensing and releasing, and the kind of high level, big peak, full culmination of energy type of stuff. And this full moon being in Cancer means that we've got 2 cardinal signs at play right now. We've got Cancer, which is a cardinal sign, and we've got Capricorn, which is a cardinal sign. Capricorn is earth, Cancer is water. So really strong earth water energy happening right now. And cardinal signs are bosses, right? They are leaders. They have big energy, and they have strong assertive energy. And these two are opposite of each other, because that always happens during a full moon, is there's an opposition. And these two, what they share in common when you're on the same axis line, is this sense of dedication. They are truly dedicated in very different ways. Cancer is dedicated to their home, to being nurturing, to being intuitive, to being sensitive, to understanding those dynamics. Capricorn is dedicated to work, to their ambition, to what can be achieved, to what can be used, to what can be facilitated, and plans that can be created and made and done. So what does all of this mean for where we are today with this full moon? Well, this is a really important time for us to reflect on where we're at and what our needs are, right? Because whether you really connect to the sense of Cancer and the feeling of being at home, or you're more of that ambitious kind of work focused, you still relate to the other. You can, sometimes it's more obvious and more apparent than the other, but truly, for all of us right now, we can really assess, are our needs being met? Which is part of why this conversation around self-care really plays into what's happening right now, where if you have old habits, if you have things that you've labeled as self-care that don't actually raise your well-being, that maybe make you happy, that are things you enjoy doing, things that you've gotten into the habit of doing that, send off those signals from your brain that like, okay, this is good, but is it actually leading you to a place of better well-being? This is a great time to release some of those things. What are those fears that are keeping you stuck? What are the fears that are keeping you in a place of avoidance? What are the fears or the feelings that are keeping you from speaking your truth? And, as with all of these things, I think sometimes we can be so overwhelmed when we hear this kind of talk, because we think, oh my God, I've got to change my whole life right now. I'm always having to change my whole life. You absolutely do not. anytime I'm talking about these things, sometimes we have big stuff that we can connect to with this stuff, but sometimes it's the small things. Sometimes it's just little changes here and there. Sometimes it's not so big, not so overwhelming. So, but going back to our Astro segment, if you are interested in downloading that guide, check out the free guide, and you'll see in there is a full moon ritual, which I know that you're listening to this on a Tuesday, so the day after the full moon, but that doesn't mean you can't get in on this. This ritual is a water ritual, so something you can actually do with water. I suggest doing it in the bathtub, but you could also do it wherever you want. There's all kinds of instructions on that. And the guide is filled with other thoughts of just taking care of yourself. In fact, after the page of the full moon ritual, there's a little inspirational page for Aquarius season self-care, which Sun does move from Capricorn into Aquarius in 2 days from now, so on the 19th. So we're going to be going from kind of earthy Capricorn, make lists, get stuff done, resolution energy into, okay, now how can I take what my resolutions were and really transform them into bigger ideas that are not just about me, but about my community, about my social causes that mean something to me. What changes do I need to make in my life? Where do I need to gain inspiration? That kind of vibe is super huge with Aquarius. So lots of info on that too. I think that's going to do it this week. I am rescheduling the live class. So if you would like to join me for a live connecting yoga class, I teach gentle yoga. It's a lot of fun. It's all done at home. We do it over Zoom. That may not sound like fun to you, especially if you have a lot of Zoom meetings, but I promise that you can make it really fun, right? Like you can set up candles in your space. You can get somewhere cozy. You can change the vibe so that it matches that feeling, that as close as you can to something that just brings you happiness. And we have a great community, and so that's going to get rescheduled for next Sunday. So join the Patreon. It's $12 a month. You get so much stuff. You get the guides delivered right to your inbox. You get yoga classes. You get to connect live with me. You get all of this access to these guided meditations, and really you get this community that is all about hanging in there, loving yourself, doing the best that you can, and just reminding each other that we're not alone, that we are all doing the best that we can to take care of ourselves. So with that, we will wrap up today's episode with a card drawing. So today we'll use the Wild Offerings deck by Tasha Silver. This is one of my favorites. Just taking a couple deep breaths while I shuffle these cards, see what the universe has to say to all of us. Okay, this card is Truth. When everything is done as an offering, even the act of speaking, you get shown when to talk and when to be silent. Your words come from silence, not fear. You do the talking, dear Lord. Take me over and speak through me. I love that, and in general. And I think that it definitely connects back to this idea of when we're moving through life, giving ourselves, wanting to be used by the universe for a higher purpose. Things do become a lot more clear in our lives. Fear is such a powerful force, and so many of us have fears that run through us that sometimes hold us back. And that is why, again, it's so important to take good care of yourself, because the more you can stay rooted and do that, the less often you operate from a place of fear. It doesn't mean you won't feel it or that it won't be there, but it doesn't mean that it'll rule your life or govern your words and change your truth. All right, you guys, that will do it for today. Keep taking care of yourself this week. Do something that's just for you, that definitely improves your well-being. And remember, that is a good way to look at it, not just self-care that just makes you feel good and feel happy and gives you a pass. Sometimes self-care is the hard things that leave you in a better place today, tomorrow, and for days to come. All right, until next time.